Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Statistics and Probability class. Today is May 2, 2022, Monday. I'm your instructor, Sir Alvin Albao. Our discussions for today is about identifying the appropriate rejection region for a given level of significance. This will be under Module 7. For our learning objectives, we have to define that critical value, the level of significance, hypothesis test, and rejection region. Identify the critical value when population variance is known or unknown, and also to determine the appropriate rejection region for a given level of significance when population is known or unknown and central limit test is to be used. Okay, in hypothesis testing, a researcher collects samples data. From the given data, the researcher formulates the null and alternative hypothesis. Then, he chooses appropriate test statistics and computes it. If the statistics fall within the specific range of values, the researcher rejects the null hypothesis. The range of values that leads to the researchers to reject the null hypothesis is called the region of rejection. What is rejection region and how is it important in the process of hypothesis testing? Critical value, significance level, and the rejection region. In hypothesis testing, a critical value is a point on the test distribution that is compared to the test statistics to determine whether to reject the null hypothesis. The critical value for a test of hypothesis depends upon the test statistic, which is specific to the type of test, and significance level, which define the sensitivity of the test. A value of significance level 0.05 implies that the null hypothesis is rejected 5% of the time when it is in the fact true. In practice, the common values of the significance level are 0.01, 0.05, and 0.1, 0.05, and 0.01. So, ito lamang yung level of significance value or significance levels na ginagamit natin or ginagamit ng researcher. Okay, so the critical value of the C distribution. A critical value of the C score is used when the sampling distribution is normal or close to the normal. C scores are used when the population standard deviation is known or when you have larger sample sizes. So when the C scores can also be used to calculate probability for unknown standard deviation and small samples. So many statisticians prefer using the t-distribution to calculate these probabilities. Okay, so kapag ang ating standard deviation is given or ang ating variance are known, so therefore ang gagamitin natin is the c-distribution. So we have to find the critical value of the c-distribution. And also kapag larger yung samples population size natin or sample sizes natin ay larger, which means greater than 30, we can also use the c-distribution. Sir, paano kapag nag-lower than 30? So, ang gagamitin na natin doon is the t-distribution to calculate the probabilities. Okay? Or, kapag unknown ating variance or standard deviation. Okay, so this is the table of the critical values or the C-score. So we have here the test type, the left-tailed test, right-tailed test, and two-tailed. And then we have at level of significance, the 0.01, 0.025, 0.05, and 0.1 or 0.10. And so sabi nyo kanina, tatlo lang yung level of significance na ginagamit. Bakit po naging apat? Okay, so yung 0.025, yan yung additional significance level natin. Makikita nyo later kung saan to ina-apply. Okay, so we have here the left tail test. So at level of significance 0.01, so left tail test natin is negative 2.33. Right tail test is positive 2.33, and then the two tail test is positive or negative 2.575. Then, level of significance of 0.025. Left tail test is negative 1.96. Right tail test is positive 1.96. And two tail test is positive or negative 2.33. Level of significance of 0.05. In left tail test, negative 1.645. In right tail test, positive 1.645. And then in two tail test, we have positive or negative 1.96. And then in the level of significance of 0.10 or 0.1, in left tail test, we have the critical value of negative 1.28. Right tail test, we have positive 1.28. And then the two tail test, we have positive or negative 1.645. Okay. So ito yung gagamitin nating table mamaya kapag tayo ay magsosolve na or maghahanap na ng critical values ng isang problem. Okay, so a left tail test, if the alternative hypothesis contained less than inequality symbol, so we use the hypothesis test left tail test. While in right tail test, if the alternative hypothesis contains greater than inequality symbol, so we use the hypothesis test right tail test. And in two tail test, if the alternative hypothesis contains not equal symbol, so therefore we use the hypothesis test two tail test. So in two tail test, each tail has the area of one half of our significance level. Okay, let's have example. So find the critical C values. In each case, assume that the normal distribution applies. So kung kanina nakita nyo yung table value of the critical value of the C distribution, so makikita nyo yung answer natin dito. Okay, so gamitin natin yon. So the left tail test with a level of significance 0.01. So the critical value of the left tail test is negative 2.33. Okay. The two-tailed test with a level of significance 0.05. So, ang gagamitin natin is the positive or negative 1.96. Then, the right-tailed test with a level of significance 0.25. 0.025 is positive 1.96. Okay, so yun yung nakakita natin sa table kanina na nasa previous slides natin. Okay, next, the critical value of T distribution. The T distribution table values are critical values of the T distribution. The column header is the T distribution probabilities, or which is the level of significance. Then the row names are the degrees of freedom. Okay, so kanina C distribution, ngayon T distribution naman. Kapag ang ating sample size is less than or kapag unknown yung ating variance or standard population. So to find the critical value for T distribution, number 1, identify the level of significance. Number 2, identify degrees of freedom. So paano makukuha yung degrees of freedom? Degree of freedom is equal to sample size minus 1. So kapag given yung sample size natin, i-minus natin lagi siya sa 1 para makuha natin yung degree of freedom. Number 3, find the critical value using the T distribution in the row with N1 or with sample size minus 1 degrees of freedom. So if the hypothesis test is left tail test, use one tail column with a negative sign. Then right tail test, use significance level one tail column with positive sign. And then two tail test, use the significant levels two tails column with a negative and positive sign. Okay, so kapag left and right tail, titingin lang tayo sa one tail column. Then kapag positive ay right tail, kapag negative left tail ang gagamitin. Or kapag left tail negative, kapag positive right tail positive yung gagamitin natin na critical value for T distribution. And then kapag two-tailed naman, so tingin tayo sa two-tailed column. So ang magiging critical value na is positive and negative sign. Okay, so this is the critical value table for T distribution. Okay. So, yan yung sinasabi natin sa for one-tailed test. Ito lang yung gagamitin natin. And then, kapag two-tailed test naman, so sa one-tailed test, 0.05, 0.025, 0.01, and then 0.05. Kapag naman sa two-tailed test, 0.1, 0.05, 0.02, and then 0.01. Okay. So, ayan po yung ginagamit natin. Okay, ready nyo rin yung inyong table of the critical table for T distribution para kapag meron kayong activity, mas madali nyo na siyang makita. Okay, the critical region or the rejection regions. So critical region, also known as the rejection region, describes the entire area of values that indicates you reject the null hypothesis. In order, in other words, the critical region is the area encompassed by the values not included in the acceptance region. So it is the area of the tails of the distribution. The tails of the test are the values outside of the critical values. In other words, the tails are the end of the distribution and they begin at the greatest or least value in the alternative hypothesis or the critical value. Para saan ba yung critical value? So yung critical value kasi nagdi-divide sa rejection region at sa acceptance region. Okay, so yun yung magiging kanilang common side or common end. The rejection region in population variance is known. So to determine the critical region for a normal distribution, we use the table for the standard normal distribution. So if the level of significance is 0.1, then for one-tailed test, the critical region below is negative 1.28 and above is positive 1.28. So kapag ang level of significance natin is 10 or 0.1 or 0.10, so makukuha natin critical value is negative 1.28 and positive 1.28 kung right-tailed test siya. Or kung left-tailed test, negative 1.28. Pero kapag two-tailed test siya, so gagamitin natin yung 1/2 of the significance level. So 1/2 of 0.10 is equal to 0.05. And then, hanapin natin yung critical region. So, ang makukuha natin is negative and positive or negative 1.645. So if the absolute value of the calculated statistics has a value equal to or greater than the critical value, then the null hypothesis should be rejected and the alternative hypothesis is assumed to be supported. So i-reject natin yung null, i-accept natin yung null alternative hypothesis. Okay, the rejection region in population variance is unknown. So kapag unknown yan, t-distribution ulit yung gagamitin natin or the table of the t-distribution. Okay, let's have assumed that we use the t-distribution with 20 degrees of freedom. O, tingin kayo sa 20 degrees of freedom. So row ng 20 degrees of freedom and then the level of significance at 0.1. So ang makukuha nyong test or one-tailed test is for the left tail is negative 1.325 and then for the right tail is positive 1.325. Okay, so tingin ulit kayo sa 20 degrees of freedom under the two-tailed test. So, two-tailed test is 0.05. Bakit na iba na siya? Kasi sabi natin, kapag two-tailed test, we have to divide it by 2 para makuha natin yung left and right, value, critical value. Okay, so kapag under the, so kung kanina under 0.10, ngayon under of 0.05, significance level yung ating gagamitin. So 0.05, ang makukuha natin critical value for t-distribution is negative or positive 1.725. So if the absolute value of the calculated statistic has the value equal to or greater than the critical value, then the null hypothesis will be rejected and the alternative hypothesis is assumed to be correct. Okay, so i-reject natin yung null, i-accept natin yung alternative hypothesis. Okay, so this is the hypothesis test and their tails. So there are three types of the test from a tails standpoint. So a left-tailed test, only one has tail, only has a tail on the left side of the graph. So yung rejection region natin is nasa left side. So kapag right-tailed tail, yung rejection region natin ay nasa right side of the graph. So kapag two-tailed test naman, yung rejection region natin is nasa left and right of the graph. So we have to get the specific value para makita natin kung magpo-fall ba ito sa rejected region or sa accepted region. Okay? Ulit, kapag nag-fall sa rejection, meaning to say, we have to reject the null, accept the alternative hypothesis. Sir, paano pag nag-fall po sa white part po, sa accepted region? So, you have to accept the null hypothesis. Yung magiging inyong hypothesis statement. Okay? So, i-accept nyo yung null hypothesis kung ito ay magpo-fall sa accepted region. Okay? Clear po? Next, proceed tayo. Okay, let's have example 1, the right-tailed test where the standard deviation of the variance is known. So our level of significance is 0.05 and our sample size 34. So we can see sample size 34, so greater than 30. Therefore, we use the critical value of the C distribution. So in this example, the population standard deviation is known. Therefore, the test statistic would be C test. To obtain the critical value for the level of significance at 0.05 and one-tailed test, C value from the table is 1.645. So the hypothesis test is right-tailed, so the inequality symbol would be greater than or equal. Hence, the rejection region for a one-tailed test is Z is greater than or equals to 1.645. So, yun yung nakuha nating value. Okay po. So, tingnan natin. So, ito yung ating level of significant C distribution table. Critical value C distribution. Okay. So, sa right-tailed test, gamit natin yung right-tailed test. So, makikita natin sa level of 0.05. So, right-tailed test, we will be having 1.645. Okay. So, when we graph it, ganito yung kanyang magiging graph. So, critical value natin is 1.645. So, rejection region natin is greater than 1.645. So, for example, ang ating result or C value or ang result na lumabas natin, the value of our C is 1.72. So, magpo-fall ito sa rejection region. Okay, so kapag nag-fall sa rejection region, we have to reject the null and then accept the alternative hypothesis. Sir, paano kapag nag-fall ito sa 0.5? So 0.5 is the accepted region. We have to accept the null and then reject the null hypothesis. Reject the alternative hypothesis. Okay po, so clear tayo dito sa example 1. Proceed. Example 2. The two-tailed test where the variance is unknown or standard deviation is unknown and our significance level is 0.05 and then the level sample size is 10. Okay, again, two-tailed test yung gagamitin natin. So kapag two-tailed test, since this is a two-tailed test, so ang gagawin natin is we have to divide the significance level into 2. So 0.05 divided by 2 is 0.025. Of the values would be in the left and other would be in the right tail. So looking up in the t-score, sa t-distribution tayo kasi, ang ating sample size is less than 30. So therefore, t-distribution. Okay. So kailangan ma-identify natin yung degrees of freedom. Just using the degree of freedom, 10 minus 1 or the sample size minus 1. So we have here 9. So tingin tayo sa row 9. And then under row 9, tingnan natin yung column 0.025 ng two-tailed test. So, ang magiging reference table natin, we find 2.62. So, positive or negative 2.62 ang ating magiging critical value on the right tail and also in the left tail. So, the rejection region is negative 2.262 and positive 2.262. Okay. So, ayan po yun. So, ayan yung magiging rejected region natin. So, kapag nag-fall tayo sa 2.30, positive 2.30 yung ating C values, or nakuha nating C-score. So, ang magiging claim natin is we have to reject the null hypothesis and then accept the alternative hypothesis. Kasi 2.3 fall into rejected region or rejection region. Same with kung ito ay magpo-fall sa negative 2.5 yung ating T-score. So, therefore, magpo-fall yan sa rejection region natin. So, reject the null, accept the alternative hypothesis. Okay po. So, kung nag-fall naman yan sa positive 1, so nasa fail to rejection yan. So, therefore, we have to accept the null hypothesis and then reject the alternative hypothesis. Okay po. So, clear po tayo doon. Malinaw po. Okay, example number 3. The left tail test where the variance is known and then our level of significance is 0.01. So our sample size is 40. So using the left tail test, our sample size is 40. A one-tailed test with 0.01 would have 99% if the area under the curve outside of the critical value So, yung 0.01 natin is significance level, yung 99% natin is the confidence level. Okay, so in the critical region, since the variance is known, we use the z-score and the reference to find the critical value. So, this is a left tilt test, so the critical value we need negative. The solution is the C is equal to negative 2.326, so the rejection region is C is less than or equals to 2.326. Okay, so yeah. So, or negative 2.33. Ni-round up lang natin siya. So, tignan natin yung graph. So, ito yung magiging rejection region natin. Okay? So, critical value is negative 2.326 or negative 2.33. Okay, so yung C-score natin, kung magpo-fall sa rejection region, again, reject the null, accept the alternative hypothesis. Otherwise, accept the null, reject the alternative hypothesis. Okay, let's have example number 4. A survey reports of customers in the drive-thru lane of one fast food chain spent 8 minutes to wait of his or order. A sample of 24 customers in the drive-thru lane showed the mean of 7.5 with standard deviation of 3.2. Is the waiting time of the drive-thru less than that of the survey made? So use the 0.05 significance level. Okay, so kung ipa-plot natin siya into table, so ito yung magiging table natin. The hypothesis is our now hypothesis is the mean is equals to 8 and then the alternative hypothesis is mean is less than 2, 8. So nakalagay din sa problem. So the hypothesis test is the left tail test. The population standard known or unknown. So it is unknown. So therefore, the level of significance is 0.05 and then the sample size is 24. So ang gagamitin natin is the t value or the critical t value distribution. Okay. So the one-tailed test 0.05 level of significance has 95% level of confidence level of the area under the curve outside the critical region. Since the variance is unknown, we use the score with the degree of freedom 24 minus 1. So punta tayo sa row 23 as the reference to determine the critical value. So this is the left tail test. So the critical value we need is negative. So under the row 23, tingin tayo sa 0.05 significance level. So makikita natin critical value is 1.714 and the rejection region is negative 1.714. Okay, so ito yung magiging graph natin. So the critical value is negative 1.714 for C. Okay? So lahat ng magpo-fall sa under negative, halimbawa, negative 1.8, so it's fall under the rejection region. So again, reject the null, accept the alternative hypothesis. Okay, example number 5. So a banana company claimed that the mean weight of their banana is 150 grams with standard deviation of 18. The data generated from samples of 49 bananas randomly selected indicated a mean weight of 153.5 grams per banana. If there is there sufficient evidence to reject the company's claim, so use the significance level of 0.05. Usually kasi, pinaka-safe gamitin is this level of significance is 0.05. So, yung pinaka-mas safe na gamitin para hindi siya mas malayo or hindi siya mas mataas or hindi siya mas mababa sa confidence level natin. So, the hypothesis natin is the mean is equal to 150 and the alternative hypothesis mean is not equal to 150. So, therefore, it is a two-tailed test, not equals yung ginamit natin. So, the hypothesis test, two-tailed test, population is known and at significance level 0.05, the number of samples is 49. So, we have to use the C value. Okay. So, using the C value table, 0.05 and then two-tailed test. 0.05 two-tailed test, so ang gagamitin natin is 1.96. Okay. So, the critical value will be used is the 1.96. So the rejection region is G is less than 1.96 or G is positive ay greater than or equals to 1.96. So left and right yung ating rejection region. Okay, so pag nag-fall sa rejection region, again, reject the null, accept the alternative hypothesis. Okay? For example, ang kanyang C value ay 2.1. So, nagpo-fall yan sa rejection region or negative 2.5. So, magpo-fall siya sa rejection region din. Otherwise, kung di magpo-fall dun sa rejection region, we have to accept the null hypothesis and then reject the alternative hypothesis. Okay? Okay, so this will be the end of our discussions. So posted na rin yung ating quizzes for today's discussion. So pakisilip nyo na lang po sa ating Google Class under the quiz files of statistics and probability class. Okay? So if you have any questions, just PM lang para masagot ko kayo. Thank you very much for listening and for watching. Have a nice day to everyone. Bye for now. See you next meeting.